was a professor of law at the University of Makumira and a very experienced lobbyist on this issue across scales. I've been with him in some spaces. And so the question here to you, Prof, is what are some of the emerging global and regional trends towards enhanced funding for indigenous-led research? And so that I don't interrupt you, the second component is what are some specific ideas you have about catalyzing resources towards indigenous-led research? 7 minutes are yours. And when I say hello, it's not because you're not making sense. It's just because I need to manage time. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much. Very generous introduction. Dear colleagues, it's a pleasure to be here. I think I've learned quite a lot, and most importantly, it has been quite rewarding to see old friends as well as to make new ones. And I want to preface my 7 minutes presentation by some statistics, which I think also were emphasized by the indigenous youth here yesterday. So the Food and Agriculture Organization in a publication indicates that only 2% of the resources in the entire climate finance matrix go to indigenous peoples. And but that requires even further unpacking to mean what that 2% is. In fact, the 2% is of the resources, is of the 2% that was supposed to go to indigenous peoples. I think I'm not complicating maths. And as a lawyer, of course, I shouldn't. So put that in mind. Really, it should resonate as I present. That FAO indicates that only 2% of the funds go to indigenous people. But to unpack that even further, it is actually 2% of the 2% that eventually makes its way to indigenous peoples. And one of the indigenous youth said something that really makes a lot of sense yesterday, that we are taking 2% of the 2% to people who offer 100% in terms of what is needed to mitigate climate change, as well as to change their lives in order to adapt, forceful adaptation, I would say, to indigenous people. But if I can go directly to the question, I want to bring some good news that currently there is consensus. There's global consensus that there's a need to fund indigenous peoples, not only in terms of resources for education and research, but also to enable them to adapt. And this is because of the interlinked drivers of vulnerabilities. So indigenous peoples have interlinked resources that make them more vulnerable than other communities. But something also important is the central role that indigenous peoples play as stewards of Mother Earth. So for those two reasons, there's no debate anymore at the global level that resources are needed to go to indigenous peoples. First, as stewards of Mother Earth, but secondly, in appreciation of the fact that, they are bombarded by interlinked resources that make them even more vulnerable. Now, why do we need funds, and why should they come? Number one is symbolic gesture, that there's unequal responsibilities in causing climate change and its impacts. We are sitting here, but we know that causes of climate change are varied, and there are those who contributed more. So that symbolic gesture is very important to show that we appreciate. But number two is relational. to build trust that we have a common but differentiated responsibility. But the other one is instrumental. Instrumental, and this resonates more with indigenous peoples because you are availing resources to where they are needed most. You know, for example, better than I do, that us as pastoralists, just one cycle is enough to make us devastated, very, very poor. So by availing resources for research on adaptation and education, you are taking resources to where they matter even most. But now, I was asked the second question on how do we widen. So much as indigenous peoples and indigenous scholars for that matter focus only on one aspect of how to get money for climate action and education in that regard. We usually talk about international relations. As I said, the symbolic aspect that those who have polluted have the responsibility to pay more. But I want to widen our scope, right? That we should also look, because if you talk about climate action, don't talk about it in isolation from energy transition, because why do we need climate finances is in order to transition to greener technologies that do not pollute Mother Earth. So one, there is an aspect of strategic minerals. You know, these are minerals that power that transition to clean energy. I don't see a lot of indigenous scholars and researchers engaging there, and there's a lot of funding accruing from there because, as we know, in order to transition to clean energy, you need some minerals that would enable you to transmit clean energy to the consumers. But it implicates quite a lot of important issues that are pertinent to indigenous people's rights, including compensation for land and so on and so forth. Because, for example, many of the governments regard subsurface resources as not belonging to the landholders. So I'm seeing a lot of opportunities there for funding and education and publications for indigenous scholars. Another, of course, is clean energy facilities. And, for example, building the transmission lines. I don't see indigenous peoples taking that as well. Another is financing green technologies. You would know that now banks, including commercial banks, have made a very important foothold. They have emerged as leaders because they wanted to be seen as supporting clean technology. And what that means is that indigenous peoples and entrepreneurs can also get loans in order to support energy transition. But what the world doesn't know, and indigenous people should take it as an opportunity, is that we don't appreciate the fact that cultural values of indigenous peoples are different from the basic assumptions. I'll give you an example. So while the basic assumptions, much more Eurocentric and Western, is that the goal of a business is profit making. That is not necessarily true for indigenous peoples, because we see other assumptions, non-economic causal variables in terms of indigenous entrepreneurship. So I would say that is an opportunity for indigenous scholars to widen their understanding of climate finance for climate action, to also interrogate the entire value chain, because not only will they be able to inform the processes, but also to widen the potential for getting resources. Asante sana Kimare.
Oh, wow. Asante sana kaka. I should have said the professor here comes from Tanzania. The other side where the colonial is just to an imaginary line. And you can tell he has been in these spaces. In 7 minutes he has said all that. Actually, one, let's go beyond traditional sources of finance. Two, that the need to fund indigenous is settled, at least in these courses. It is settled. It's no longer whether they need, it's how actually to make it happen. And that the third and major point is also, not that these are the only points, but just some quick takeaways, is the way data speaks to the need to fund indigenous because they are receiving peanuts. So basically, what do we give away, what we receive, and that this is a very unjust relationship. Thank you very much, Prof. Let's go to hear the voice of the lady so that we hear it sooner before it's too late. Let's go to Edna. And Edna has served as an indigenous leader, an organization seeking financing, an advisor to indigenous-led funds. And actually, the hat she's wearing here is that she's an advisor to the Pawanga Fund, which is an indigenous-led fund. Increasingly, Edna, we are seeing, in response to what Professor here, Walteka said, there is a growing interest to actually expand this net that Prof was talking about. So the question to you is, how has indigenous-led funds, such as Pawanka, positioned itself to enhance their financial support towards indigenous? I should add one more. For years, indigenous people have been deemed recipients of small grants. Indigenous people never receive beyond $50,000. They never seem to grow capacity. And nobody is born with capacity to spend. So the envelope has always been narrow for indigenous people. Would you speak to this, Edna, please, in 7 minutes? Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Kemarin, and also Professor Lalteka, who's a good friend of mine. And I'm seated amongst professors, so I'm also inspired. Maybe in the next couple of years, we'll also have professor titles. So I think finance is an important topic, and for indigenous-led fund as Pawanka. First, when we started, Pawanka was known as Indigenous Ways of Knowing and Learning Fund, and it was born in 2014. And the idea was, that time, 2014, there was a Kalacha festival in northern Kenya, and indigenous leaders were gathered there, and then they realized also after that, they had an event also we had the World Conference of the Indigenous People in New York, where all indigenous people gathered globally to look at challenges of indigenous people really in securing their rights. But then on the sidelines, indigenous leaders thought and had a lot of complaints about a lack of funding really for traditional knowledge and the loss that is happening around it and the impact it has on communities' well-being and self-determination. And so that's how Pawanka Fund was born, really to support indigenous people's self-determination and well-being through recovery of traditional knowledge, revitalization of that, and cultural practices, because these are significant for communities. And also the learning systems, ways, the way we learn, the intergenerational systems of learning, and so forth. And also, more importantly, even spirituality, which is a bigger component for indigenous people. And Pawanka, at that time, was established, and we had 10 guiding committee members who are indigenous leaders drawn from the different parts of the globe to provide guidance and also to steer Pawanka. And it's also head by a chair, and plus the secretariat team. And how Pawanka positions itself to really enhance access to finance for indigenous people is really through the direct grant making that we do as Pawanka Fund. So we provide effective direct grant making for indigenous people to define and implement initiatives. So we don't define for communities what they're supposed to work on. If they want to work on language to build their climate resilience, if they want to work on their governance, traditional governance, to manage their water ecosystem, or they want to work on their water ecosystem, or even to strengthen their movement. There are those who work around building curriculum, and it's good. We have a number of partners in this meeting room who are partners of Pawanka, working on the different thematic areas, and we put themes, but it's summation of what our partners have been requesting support under, just to showcase where funding is going, but we do not define for them. So there are those who work around building traditional governance systems, those who are working around building their traditional food systems, working on intercultural research as well, and so diverse areas of it. And how we also enhance support is we don't focus on technical grant-making criteria, but we have a cultural due diligence as criteria set by our guiding committee. And these ones have been expanded. There were 8, now it's 11. So we look at, is the initiative from the community supporting self-determination? Is it supporting protection of Mother Earth, for instance? Is it revitalizing knowledge? Is it supporting continuity of learning, spirituality, different components and elements that resonate with indigenous communities globally. And of course, how does it support also community to have autonomy? And we also foster building of relationship and trust amongst our partners. So we focus more on mentoring and accompaniment, not per se, oh, you have to report on this and so forth, but also focusing on accompaniment, because we believe in mutual learning with our partners. And you can understand, we don't call grantees, we don't use that word grantees, we call partners, because it's a mutual giving, and that's indigenous way of philanthropy, because you're giving and receiving something as well. So there's mutual relationship, and we try to build that trusted relationship, but also foster knowledge sharing, not only within our partners and us, but also within themselves globally and also internationally. And also giving flexible funding, and of course, knowing that even if it's a self-help group, a women group, we don't, even if they are not registered, formally, we acknowledge that as well. And you do not limit, even if it's a self-help group, they can manage 3 million shillings, they can manage 5 million shillings, they can handle grant making, and that's how we also do. And also, we acknowledge that grant making, it has to be holistic. We understand it's interconnected. Sometimes a partner would want to work on land rights, strengthening that. And we know sometimes they'll say, we are working on that because it's important for our community to really also be able to secure our knowledge and language, but also foster other things. So we also aim to give holistic grants to communities that we partner with, and we've partnered with more than 650, and it's growing each year and covering 84 countries globally. And the other work we do, since we understand the challenge, and Professor has highlighted, grant making coming to indigenous people is less. And so the other mission of Pawanka is really also, apart from giving direct grants to community to support self-determination, is to enhance knowledge and sharing within the philanthropy space, so that they understand indigenous philanthropy and intercultural philanthropy, what it is about. You're not coming to community to save them. Community already have their own systems of doing things. They're still there, they've been there for centuries. You're coming to put something a little to the pot, to support and strengthen what is going, and that's the meaning of Pawanka. Pawanka is a mosquito word that means something that's strengthening. So we believe we are partnering, but also supporting processes that are already going there. Community are always doing things, and so that is we do. And also acknowledging that it's important to collaborate. So Pawanka also supports other indigenous-led funds in terms of strengthening their capacity, because we have emergence of many funds that are coming up. And also, we know we have some strength, and we have partnered even with scientific organizations like Woodwell Research Center, and other international organizations like Health in Harmony, Niatero, to really showcase and support indigenous-led actions and access big grants, millions of dollars that we wouldn't maybe be trusted with as a single organization, but to also leverage on the different powers that each organization has to upscale and support access to finance for communities globally as indigenous people. Yeah, so thank you.
Wow, a hand would not harm. Thank you. Thank you very much, Edna. And I like the way you are glancing at me. When I pick the mic, it's an indication, and you're doing perfectly well. So, yeah, Pawanka's birth is a response to the need of indigenous ways of knowing. Okay? Self-identified, self-determined needs. Yeah? Modalities of access, yeah, simplified, oversimplified. The GCF, for example, to access it, you need $400,000 to prepare, to get ready to ask for money. That's a project in itself, a huge project. But Pawanka has simplified. Relationship and trust, not donor-recipient, okay? Dignity of the partners is foundational. Size doesn't matter of the indigenous people organization. And that not silos, issues are interrelated. When you're supporting land rights and you have no food security, you need to eat today to fight tomorrow for land rights. So these issues are interrelated. And that is an advocate, not just a donor, being an advocate of indigenous funding and many more. Wow. Thank you. I will jump Mheshimiwa because I want him to wrap up for us and go to the university. I'll jump Mheshimiwa Lowoi unless he please. I'd rather you come last because as a state and the issues that you deal with, I think you can pull it together. So we have Dr. Waweru here from the university. And while we are talking about financing, we were told actually in the opening remarks by Mabwaga yesterday that the university has 5 pillars, 5 M's: Mara River, Masai Mara, Mao Forest, Maombi, and the last one is a Masai culture. So the issue here is, how has the university positioned itself to move beyond just a commitment in policy or paper to Maasai cultural heritage? What strategic arrangements and financing to make this commitment to the Maasai a reality?
Thank you. I'll start by relaying my Vice Chancellor's greetings. She was supposed to be here, Professor Penina Alobuto, and she's very much committed to making sure that the university preserves and promotes and respects the Maasai culture, and not just the Maasai culture. I was talking to Mheshimiwa here, and he was talking of indigenous peoples, so we need to expand that. So in regards to the strategies, financing strategies that the university has put in place to ensure that we honor the commitment to respect and promote the Maasai cultural heritage, we'll start with the finances as the financial strategy is concerned. The 5 M's, all of them stand alone, but they feed into each other. The Ma culture, if you look at it, if we remove, for example, the kettle, we alter it. If we remove the Masai Mara National Reserve, it's altered. If we remove the Mara River, it's altered. If we remove the Maombi, yesterday we started with prayers from a Masai elder, we've changed something. So all of them have to feed into each other. I think that that's how the 5 pillars. You remove one pillar, there's a weakness. The university basically has in that spirit, then I'll go to the next. So culture. We have several programs in the university. Being a teaching university, we have the culture being promoted, wildlife management, environmental management and conservation, renewable energies, and so many others. And if we were to look at the finances that we are getting, they are thin internationally, so we are not exclusive. But what is coming out is that we have to be very innovative. We have to think not just out of the box, but actually break the box. The university gets money from the government, from the school fees, grants. We are now vigorously moving to income generation units, the IGUs, because we need to generate money to support our activities. And once we have this money, and the university has made a commitment that in every aspect of our day-to-day, there is an aspect of Maasai culture. And I will want to say, to outline some of the ways this is actualized. I'll start with what we call the University, Masai Mara University Strategic Plan, 2024-2029. And this is where the 5 aims, the pillars, were anchored, and therefore our strategic plan for the next 5 or so years, it has prioritized the Maasai culture as an issue which has to be mainstreamed. And with that, it means that there's an amount of money under whatever circumstances, it has to go to the issues dealing with the culture. And this one means the local communities and the indigenous peoples. I will start with research and culture. So where we sit, the university was given a mandate to do research, but not just do any research. The research has to be beneficial to the community. If we do an amazing research, but it does not benefit to the community, it's like we've not done anything. So whenever we are coming up with any research, the individual researchers have to demonstrate that whatever they are doing, it has to make an impact to the community, and it has to have a relevance to the community. And therefore, whenever somebody is writing a research, he has to have that in mind. The second one is that, so one of the ways we raise research money again, in terms of financial strategies, is through research grants, and that has to align to that need. We also offer programs, both degree, diploma, certificate, and there are some which are specifically tailored to focus on the Maa culture, either as a unit, and that's from education, sociology, environmental studies, and so forth. So there is money that has been categorically put aside to develop courses, programs that promote and enhance the culture of the Maasai. The third one is that the university has a commitment to establish a Maa Cultural Center. The site has already been identified, and the university is actively working to get the finances ready. And that one will promote the development of more or less like a cultural school or cultural center, and that will lead to another integration with the academic side, where the various programs, either whether it's arts or the sciences, will have a way of now doing a more hands-on, community-led research in terms of the Maa culture. The university also has had quite a number of cultural conferences and workshops. There is one that was being hosted earlier in the month, Masai Mara University and a group called Akofe, who are also here. And these conferences are also bringing in various experts in terms of not just the Ma culture, but indigenous knowledge, its preservation, its documentation, and so forth. So, for example, for such, the university had to set aside some amount to do that, and more of those are upcoming because we're being very strategic about that. The other issue is that we are very keen to preserve and conserve what we call, in layman terms, herbal medicine, but ethnomedicine. So the university has had its partners, both for the Wuhan University, and the university has a running botanical garden, which has various medicinal plants. Curate them, bring them to the botanical garden, and there is an active research going on, not just to document, but also preserve. In the era where things are changing, people are demarcating lands, some of this may be lost. So the university has taken a forefront to preserve these medicinal plants in its botanical garden. There is also, we are calling it a culture now, and this one probably has no direct implication on the finances. It's more of a directive. Every Friday, all the staff in Masai Mara are required to adorn or wear in the Masai dressing code. So the worst you can do is to have a shook around you. But if you come on Friday, the normal clothes will be transformed to brilliant colored dressing. And you can imagine what we are seeing here is more or less what is transformed there. And this is to promote an awareness even to the non-Masais that we are in Masai land and they have a beautiful culture. And this is what they wear, this is what they do. And that dressing has more or less helped us appreciate that there is another culture probably beyond the one, probably some of us who are non-Ma, we appreciate what they have. We also have what we call the Cultural Week. And this is a cultural week where both staff, students, will engage in various activities that promote the culture. There are normally various cultures, but the Ma will come out and pop out because we're in Ma land. So we have food, we have songs, the various components of our culture that need to be exhibited in such. And we also have a library, and these are a repository of books and materials. So we are able to collect the various materials from the culture in terms of write-ups. We are not probably there yet, but we would want to be one of the repositories where anybody walking in can be able to say, we have most of the publications. And we are looking forward towards whatever is produced from the indigenous researchers. We can also host it as a hub. And lastly, I would want to say that we have a journal which is being launched, even though not for indigenous yet, but it's a multidisciplinary journal. And we would want to say that we are open to having as much publications probably coming in also to be part of the preservation of the knowledge. And probably more to come. And lastly, allow me to say the last one.
Last of last, yes.
Yes. what we're also keen in, because I talked of, we are working in a space where we have very limited resources, and we have to be very innovative. We have to think. And therefore, we are actively looking for partners who are like-minded to jointly do resource mobilization so that we're able to enhance what we offer in terms of research, teaching, and community outreach. Thank you very much.
Wow. Yeah, a clap. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Wawero. It's unbelievable, really, what the university is doing on this culture, in the strategic plan, as a strategic issue, embedding in research, embedding community self-identified and prioritized needs in research, embedding indigenous causes in research grants, and a cultural center, hopefully leading to a school, ethnomedicine place, and much more. So I think the researchers here, the scholars here, the university needs you to actually make these spaces worthwhile for indigenous visions and ways of knowing and doing. Thank you. Let's move on to Professor Koisaba, the disruptor. And he had set himself up. He said earlier in the panel, if you in the plenary, he's a grant reviewer, meaning he experiences more grant ideas than anyone. You know, to be a reviewer, things converge there. So, Daktari, from this work, what are some concrete, practical ideas that this conference should pick up from your work to trigger generation of more resources to support indigenous-led research and education? 7 minutes, and I'm very close to you. For you, I don't pick the mic, I tap your shoulder.
Ambassador, do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
I have a big mouth, I can speak without it. So I use it? Okay. How are you all? Are we fine?
Yes.
No, you're not. Are we doing good? I stand because from where I come from, this my nation, no man should sit as they talk. So I don't want to abominate.
Yeah. This is a standing
so I can't sit and talk to a crowd. I go to stand. That's what we do culturally. Am I right? It's unfortunate that I'm in this workshop today and I'm missing some of the best part of me. And I would want us to stand for 1 minute in honor of a deceased friend who was my vice chair when we started mass agitation for human rights. We want to observe a minute in respect of the life of the late William Brigade. Thank you. When I came back from America, I found two cultures in Kenya. One culture that people like titles. Titles. You start with professor, doctor, doctor. No, in America, you start with your name, and then you go to Dr. So-and-so. A doctor is more important in America than a professor, because when you call yourself a professor, you have, like, specialized in that field. Ben Ulegosaba, doctor, professor in. In Kenya, you start with professor, doesn't make sense to me. So I'm much more Ulegosaba, a doctor of philosophy, and a professor in. You see? So you'll forgive me because I'm running the train from that. Yes, it's true, my brother. I have been and I'm still a grant reviewer to two major research grants in the world before Trump came on board. I'm telling you, I was a grant reviewer for NIH. My American friends can tell you, NIH National Institute of Health has always been the largest grantor, and you can, my American colleagues can testify. Any research that has been in the world, that's where the funding was coming from. Until, I don't want to say it, I was a grant reviewer, and I reviewed multiple billion-dollar grants. And then, all of a sudden, I got an invitation to review grants for the African Academy of Sciences. First challenge, I've reviewed more than 15 grants. I did not see a single grant from Kenya. We can tell you because we kept on talking. We have a group together that any grant that comes, Prof, I used to send them, what did you tell me? Oh man, Kenyan professors are lazy. They want to moonlight. Because teach this university one, another one, you make some little money. Do you know where the money is? The money is in grants. For instance, now in Langston University, where I'm a visiting scholar, for the last 2 years, we've done 3 grants. On one grant, the smallest grant we got for 3 years is $5 million. Why did we get the money? Because we know the language that the grantor wants us to speak about. We know what they want us to do, and we speak their language, so we get the money. I came to Kenya, and the first thing my side people wanted, I used to work for World Vision. I was a very big man. Eh? I was mentored by my Angabadani. You know, I am a son-in-law to Mrs. Marima. And she brought me up, actually, and she can tell you I was among the first people to be sponsored by World Vision. I came from a very humble background. Right? When I came, all my side pastors, everybody was running to me. Oh, get on your proposal. Write a proposal for you? Go to hell, I ain't gonna do it because I'm not in your brain. I mean, I can't, I'm not thinking like you. Oh, Professor, I'm going to work a proposal. That is the language they use. Professor, please write me a proposal. I look at it and say, write a proposal for somebody? What proposal am I going to write? I'm not in your brain. What am I saying? There is all the money you need in the world. All the money you need to do anything you want to do. What is the challenge? Do you know how to ask for the money? Do you know the language that the grantor wants you to speak? If you don't know the language, you don't know the grantor, you ain't going to get the money. You want to get it? You aren't going to get it. We sit and think, oh, Professor Kwaisaba, proposal like 20K. Sorry for mixing all these languages. Eh? Let's go talk to him. And some of them try to bribe me, by the way. I'm a professor. No, you know they come with some 10,000. Eh? We want to see you. No, seriously speaking, and I've turned a couple of them down. Eh? Oh, Professor, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do that. I have some little 10,000. I'm not going to do it for you. So, what I did, I wrote a book, Strategic Resource Mobilization. It's available in, Steve has a copy. He's one of the people that did the, Kimarin. We've come along with this guy. Eh? Before his head became bald, before he had a beard, I knew him many years back, and in my body. And you know, in America, when you call somebody a body, you know, it takes off your back. I take off your back, it takes off my back. What am I saying? The challenge we have in Africa is very simple. In as much as there is a lot of money there, honestly, go Google. Seriously, go Google. I mean, there's a lot of money. There's a big basket of money out there. We want that money, but we do not know how to ask for the money. We don't know the language. We don't know the person that gives the money. We don't even have the language to approach them. You know, let me use some little analogy here. Eh? During our days, we never courted girls. Eh? We never courted girls. Our parents did it. Eh? This time in age, you court a girl. Eh? You dress so well, you know, smile. You go to smile at the donor. You know, the way you look for a girlfriend, that's how you do. That's how you do the donor. We don't have that language to court donors. So what are the challenges? The opportunities are there. I'm not going to talk about opportunities. They are available. I will share several websites with ILEPA, where you just Google if it's environment, if it's health. I mean, they send me because I'm a grant reviewer. And not only a grant reviewer, I'm a peer reviewer. Do you know why? When you ask for a grant, for instance, for research, your paper is going to be subjected to us peer reviewers. And then once we peer review your paper, and the paper meets the requirement, it gets published, you become famous. This is why in academia in Kenya, unfortunately, sorry for professors in Kenya, I've been trying to quote, to cite some of you. Most of you publish in predatory journals. You pay to be published. It doesn't work like that in academia. It takes like peer reviewing a paper, because we do voluntarily, it takes 2 to 3 years for you to be published. I mean, so what am I saying? I want to be very brief.
Yeah, you need to.
I'm shutting up.
Yeah, you are.
I'm shutting up.
Yes.
What are the challenges? Challenges. What is it that you want to do? Is that something that is in the global market? You got to identify that niche. Do I have a capacity to do that? Do I have a team? Grant writing is not about you, it's about us. A university like Masai Mara, you'll be having a team that does that. A whole team that is dedicated to that. Does my proposal address both local, national, regional, and international interests? Because it's got to be global. Finally, do you have the capacity? Do you have the capacity to do that? If you don't, you go to that capacity. For instance, in Langston, we work with 10 universities in the United States. For us to get a grant, 10 universities. Don't be so self-contained that you can't do it by yourself. You've got to relate with other institutions that have the capacity to do it. You get me? NGOs. Sorry, that was research. NGOs.
Okay, like in 30 seconds.
Only.
Yes.
No, you gave that guy a lot of time, so I'm just following that cue. No. Yeah.
No, as a buddy.
All right, okay.
As a buddy, I'll hold you to account.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, NGOs. Climate change, carbon. I review documents for carbon for the World Bank. Some of the documents that the World Bank uses for carbon credits, I mean, I did help develop some of them. There's a lot of money there now. And I like what my colleague, professor from Michigan, said. It is fluid. There's a lot of money in climate. There's a lot of money in conservation. But what conservation? And if time allows, you and I can talk.
Yes.
We can develop more documents on that. Because there are documents about conservancies, conservation, carbon credits that we can contextualize to our situation in Kenya.
Thank you, Prof.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
This is the worst part of it. When you do business with a friend, it becomes a little tricky.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. I told you with such a panel, it's as many others. The challenge is really, when do you choose to stop them? Because ideas keep flowing. Yes, Prof says there's a lot of funding floating out there. The immediate issue is not the lack of it. So there is a lot of resources. One challenge is we don't go for them. They would come for us, right? That is for sure. And that we minimize moonlight. From you and the commissioner, we learned that Kenya is way ahead in textual recognition of rights and knowledge systems of indigenous people. The Constitution talks about indigenous knowledge and innovation. It talks about voice. It talks about cultural heritage. Actually, it talks about vernacular and grants that to be practiced at the county, and so on and so forth. And the enabling legislations actually, so we are in a situation where in Kenya the challenge is no longer policy related. Of course, we wait for this specific policy to be finalized, but it's on the way. So how has the government of Kenya positioned itself to finance its robust and positive constitutional policy recognition of the rights? So how has it positioned itself to make it happen by allocating resources? Over to you, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much, Brother Kimarin and my colleague panelists. The government is the government. Speaks. And I'll start by saying the first resource the government has deployed towards realization of this document is me. I'm a resource. And the commissioner seated in front of me. Because for us to be deployed from Nairobi and be with you here for 2 days with the teams that we work with, that is an enough resource. But before I delve into that, I want just to say the Constitution of Kenya identified a number of groups as marginalized, or they nowadays call them special interest groups. That is women, youth, PWD, and minority and marginalized, in Article 100, that is. All the other groups, something have been done. For women, still a struggle because we are almost in a patriarchal society. For youth, we even have a State Department as we speak. For the PWD, we have the law and we have the policy. But Article 56 of the Constitution, everybody has been running away from it. No government ever wanted to resource and bring into life Article 56 of the Constitution. Why? The same questions raised here yesterday. Everybody is still asking, who are these indigenous people? I was in some meeting and just trying to explain who are indigenous people in Kenya, you get a backlash. I'm just building a story. Who are they? Everybody is trying to call himself indigenous or marginalized in the case of our constitution. When I entered the office, we were few people, above 40. But now, we are heading to 70. Everybody is saying, even my community, we have a smaller community in it that is marginalized. And that is what is bringing us and giving us some hardships in even getting the exchequer. I went to Parliament to ask for resources because in Kenya, Parliament are the holders of the basket. While there, the committee that is in charge of us and all the other administrative units asks you a very, I don't want to talk bad because I'm a government. You are creating, that is what I was told, verbatim. You are creating a group of activists to call themselves indigenous. So how do I expect such a person giving such a comment to give me money to finalize the policy? You go to a State Department or meet a PS or a CS who, in our own capacity, are some sort of marginalized action on the activities. And they'll tell you the same. Who are these indigenous? Who are these? Nowadays. And to make it worse, some research question, community, their leaders, why do we eat money for the poor and leave the poor poorer? Yeah? You go to Garissa, you go to Wajir, the money sent there has already, so they are giving me, even me, a hard time to ask money to just do a document for ourselves. Because we're getting the allocation from National Treasury, the normal exchequer, we are getting an equalization fund, but still in Kachiliba or in Pokot East, that's Tiati, the literacy level is still at 98%. I'm building my case. Don't worry of my stories. I'll finish in 7 minutes. So we have quite a lot of resistance, and my sister commissioner knows about that. We're still trying to penetrate. This is a new office. And as I said, we are the resource. Me in the office of the president, commissioner in the commission of gender and equality, and many more. Even the Kenya National Human Rights Commission have created another desk to deal with issues of minority and marginalized. The NCIC has created a desk. Everybody is now trying to create a desk because they think in this space there is money. I sat down with people and they told me, Lowoi, we've given you an office. Go to your people, look for money outside there. So please give me money so that I can finalize a document for you, not for me. We can speak all here, do very good things, but where are we anchored? Where is our link between us and the government? We never had that office, but now we have it. So we have, yes, we are receiving quite a small monies from the exchequer that is supporting the work, but it is not enough. And if we only rely on that, then this only policy will take 10 years to be realized. Or another government, a second resource or a fourth resource. The second biggest resource on the first, in that case, is the government goodwill. We have a goodwill from this government to finalize this document and to support the indigenous people. So that is a big resource we have. That resource is the technical team. In Kenya, we have only 51 drafters certified. But out of the 51 drafters, I've been given 8, the best 8, to help us draft this document. So we have a good technical and human resource support from the government. And that is why we are running towards finalizing this document. So we are receiving quite a small amount from the exchequer. We are getting support from some of the CBOs and organizations led by the indigenous people. Like yesterday I mentioned Tumpido, they are supporting us. Kimarenia is one of a resource persons in development of the document. National Gender and Equality Commission making it, though, in fact, they are our oversight body. They are checking on us, but again, they are supporting us to develop that document because Caroline is there. If Caroline was not there, then it would have been a dead case on arrival. So we are doing that, and the government is supporting this document, and I'll request maybe at the end of the day when we get more support even from ourselves, because this is our document that will take into consideration all the issues that we are raising here. How are we going to engage with government? How are we going to support our people? How are we going to protect our people? Because the government is the provider of that platform for us to actually go forth and realize what we've been fighting for all these years. So that's it, and I'm really happy that we are here today, and everybody listening to us is that the government is on the forefront on making sure that the policy is ready. In fact, if possible by December, on the Minority Rights Day, as I said, we launch the policy, and maybe next year in August when we are celebrating the International Indigenous Day, again, we launch the law. So it's also on us to push that through. Today when I was coming in the morning, I met a man, and allow me to say a Maasai man, carrying a container with some medicines, herbal medicines on it. And he's headed to Bomet. Then I was asking myself, the researcher and the person who wrote in our books that Kambas are the long distance traders, was he right in mind? Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Can please appreciate Mheshimiwa Lowoi for speaking very candidly, just like the others, and from his mind and heart at the same time. So, Mheshimiwa re-emphasized the positive constitutional imperatives on this agenda, and also highlighted the disconnects, the prevailing disconnect between these policy gains and the practice. He highlighted some challenges, like where is the devolution money? What is the impact on indigenous communities from these resources? He also highlighted the misconception that the sector has some money, and so institutions want to have it as a bait for possible resources, because money is floating for indigenous people. And he demonstrated how the state is actually putting resources, human and material, and goodwill as a resource. That the human resource, the institutions established, the technical capacity. I was expecting a clap when he said 8 of the best out of the 50 national drafters are working on this one policy. I don't know whether I'm the only one who was excited about that, but I almost jumped. But anyway, I'm a moderator. I had to try and contain myself. And finally, he talked about collaborative support. That, yes, the state has put some money from the exchequer, the goodwill, the political capital that often kills many initiatives is abundantly available. And that we have a window of opportunity to collaborate on this to make this happen. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. And sorry for oversimplifying your inputs. Can we appreciate the panel one more time? Asanteni sana. So we have a session for some very quick question and reaction. If you are targeted, I'll give a few more. Specific, don't give a context. Try and go to the point, okay? I saw my son first, and then I saw Daktari here, and my friend there in a blue shirt. I'll try and avoid Musuni for now, because he spoke yesterday. Carson there, Mr. Patu there, the gentleman at the gate, and Meriki. And well, maybe let's finish that round first. If they are fair, we will take more. We have a little time. Straight to the point, and you can direct it to any panelist or yes. So can we have the mic going to the next person here to avoid time lapse?
Yeah, I'll be very fast. My name is Maison Olenkuruna, and my question is directed towards Dr. Kamundia from the Masai Mara University. You've mentioned the very many steps you're taking as a university to try and, keep the culture alive and, put the educational system of the university and the Masai people in tandem. My question is, do we have do we have the intention to have an institute, considering the fact that you said you're establishing a Masai cultural center, institute to study indigenous studies in the university? Because I feel like the intention to study that, instead of just saying we have also tourism and the environment, because I don't think that is really what is about the Maasai. Every community does that. Do we have the intention to study indigenous studies? Yeah.
There's an institute on its way on this, okay? Where was my number 2? Oh, yes.
Thank you, Chair.
And please note the question to you.
Mine is cross-cutting questions, suggestions.
Okay.
And a bit of
one question, one suggestion.
My friend Stanley, you need to be academician friendly. We are born to talk, so bear with us. Now, first of all, I would like to thank the professor from Tanzania, but I want to add 1 or 2 things about what he said. The question is, where are we where we are? One of the reasons where we are is lack of feasibility. Are we feasible? Who understands our problem? So if you're not feasible, then nobody will understand you. And where the problem comes from, in research, there are two things. There's what you proximate cause of a problem and underlying cause of a problem. In most cases, we look at the proximate cause. We don't go to the real thing. Now, one of the problems why we are not feasible is absent fathers. Our fathers, including me and my friend here, Stanley, of course, we don't sit with our children, with our Gen Zs, and talk about their culture, their livelihood, the beauty about it. That's number one. Number two, the other cause of this problem is lack of holistic education. You see, yes, as my colleague here said from Masai Mara, we have cultural events. We teach culture. Right? KU, where I'm from, we normally have an international cultural day all over the world. But do we relate that into indigenous livelihood? We have what do you call wildlife and tourism unit. We relate it to the indigenous livelihood.
Thank you,
So that's
Dr.
the one major
Well,
problem.
that was one.
No, just hold them. The other thing is awareness. Do we do enough awareness so that the world can feel us, see us, that we have a problem? Now, lastly, it goes to my brother here, the director. When a director, I've done studies on well-being, and one of the indicators is ownership. And ownership comes to land. If you don't have land, as you have said the other day, you remain poor. But currently, one of the ways to own land is this legislation on land registration. Yeah, thank you, my dear. Article 63. Now, some of this land, the indigenous, like Narok, I mean, I was in Taita Taveta, 60% of the land doesn't belong to them. I was here also surprised to hear that here, Narok land, 60% don't belong to them. But now when you start doing land registration, these non-indigenous communities are a problem.
Thank you, Prof. I think you've
So
made...
what's the way forward?
Yes, you made your 3 points.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
But
and
you need
very
to
valid.
be,
And very valid. I know I am not popular, but it's okay for now. I'll talk you after the session. Transfer of knowledge, fathers be present, and land tenure security, these issues, linking these cultural days to effective support to indigenous communities. All right? Yes, it's a gentleman there in a blue shirt.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Director. And my point goes straight to Dr. Waweru from Masai Mara University. My question is very straight. What best practices you as an institution have in place to ensure that the indigenous students are well taken care of in terms of their academic needs? You see, we have students from very vulnerable homes, and they are not able to access any bursary opportunities. And you get on the process, they are not able to graduate. What best practices you as an institution do you have in place to ensure all those from highly vulnerable homes achieve their career?
Thank you. Well, is there any affirmative action on indigenous people learners? I think we had Carson there. I see Musuni is insisting. I'll think about it. I had Carson, then I had Patu, and then I had Meriki there. That is the first round. Let's see how we manage time. Then we can go another one.
Thank you so much, Senior. My name is Kiburo, and my point goes to our activist in government, Honorable Lawai. So there's a striking contradiction, or what I would call discrepancy, from what we hear from people like you who support us fully, to Kenya's posture in international fora and also in support of indigenous rights, either here in Kenya or outside. So, point of context, in 5 seconds, I regularly volunteer to negotiate for our rights, either the Plastics Treaty or COP for the CBD. And so what I have come to notice is that in 10 days ago, I was bluntly told off by one of the government negotiators in the Plastics Treaty negotiations, INC 5.2, that there is no indigenous policy negotiation platform on the government side. A lawyer from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and another lawyer from AG's office. So if I go deeply, because this is online, they would know themselves. They told me that we don't exist. So there's a discrepancy. Now, from the office of the president, you know that we exist. And so we need to see that policy coming into fruition and for us to talk about our own rights and to be able to exist and to uphold within our own laws and internationally. Thank you.
You made your point clearly. How are we socializing this political goodwill across the State Department is a question. Mr. Patu, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon on their behalf.
Yes, mine is, my question is directed to the director in the OP's office. One, I'm just raising a question. If there are intention of bringing a minority commission, because I think the minority commission will sort out issues to do with marginalization. Second, about the indigenous people in the constitutions, are there specific communities that are embedded in the constitution, maybe that they are enumerated, like the Maasai, the Tugen, and blah, blah, or it's just sweeping generalization? Third is...
yes.
The last one, sure.
Yeah.
Is about advocacy of and marginalization of indigenous communities. I think we lack, the civil societies have really tried very much in advocacy, but as government, if their intention of forming a minority commission desk, we like to come and go to the rural areas and do strong advocacy, like, because I believe that people are marginalized politically because they lack consciousness, that political consciousness. Yeah. They also...
okay.
Yeah, maybe when political consciousness come into the people, then there'll be a renaissance of indigenous communities. So please, mostly is about the minority commission.
Thank you.
Or a minority desk.
Yeah, so he's a directorate level. There was a neighbor of yours that mentioned, so since he's your neighbor and the mic is next, take advantage of the mic. That is not to say everybody next to the mic takes it, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that opportunity. I'm Felix. I work with Innovate Africa. I have two questions. One, to the university. One of the problems we have is that these organizations that we have do not have the capacity to write grants. Do you have a dedicated department for fundraising grants that can help these organizations?
Great.
Two, what strategy, this goes to the government department, what strategy do you have beyond the policy and the law? And how are you planning to intervene within the devolved unit, the county governments, as established in the 4th schedule of the Kenyan Constitution? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So last on this round is Ms. Ameriki there. So capacity building, awareness, whether the directorate is a highest institution we desire or we need to elevate it to a commission authority level.
Okay, thank you. When you started this session, you mentioned that you are discussing financing, and I believe Professor or Dr. Koisaba hit on the nail on the head, because I strongly believe that there are funds, financing is available across the world, especially in Europe and in the US. You all know those who have been to the US or Europe. Earlier on, or yesterday, I saw I had many young people have concern about mentorship. And mentorship means who is going to pull them up to be able to become the scholars that you are. And earlier on today, I, like Dr. Kirigia, I'm also a beneficiary of working as a research assistant. And so I was able to get the opportunity through the circles within the academicians to be able to apply to go to the US. And I got an opportunity to study my PhD there. And currently I'm, like Koisaba said, money is out there. I am a beneficiary of the United States National Science Foundation, and I'm currently conducting my research, doctoral research in Kenya for the next 1 year or 2 years. So I think money is available, what we need. And I have my brother here. For the last few months, I've been trying to persuade him to pursue a funding. I have been able to help a few, and there's another person here who approached me sometimes a few weeks ago to also help, because we have others who have gone to Europe. I don't know Europe, but I know how. So I think, Professor, like you said, there's a language that people need to use if you want to mention, and you can only find those networks through the professors and those who have studied outside. If I look around, and for those professors and researchers that I know in this country must have attended a program outside this country, and so I want to encourage all of us, because I don't think, even if we push Mheshimiwa as hard as you may think you want to push him, I don't think, because I also worked with government, there is not much funds coming from the government to really pursue education in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In that note, can I ask all the doctors in the house, niwashtaki, msimame, with humility. If you can just stand up, wacha tu tuwashtaki kidogo, ndio mujulikane, muonekane. Please clap for them, clap for them, clap for them. We respect you. We respect you. Please sit down. Allow me, Prof, not to give you for now. Maybe I'll give you the closing remarks as you say. Thank you very much, Mary Kay, for that, and for not saying it, but doing it. And I know many others here are very successful resource mobilizers. Kirigia is also a very excellent one. I have let him down a few times. But the youth, can you stand up here present? Okay, our youth. Wow. Wow. Yes, let's appreciate them. Thank you. Thank you very much. Amazing. Really amazing. So we are hopeful. We are hopeful. We hope we are affecting and infecting you with this vision. So we go around to quick reaction from each of you. Then we see whether we can give 3 others. I saw Gabriel, I saw Anne, and I saw Samuel. If we can give those 3, then... oh, and you're here. Huh? No, you're as beautiful as a flower, so I was confusing you with a flower. No, it's okay. Let's start with Waweru there. Please, if you can do it in a minute or so, will be great.
Thank you. I think the first question was, do we have an intention to have an institute targeting the studies in the university? As I said, it's a cultural center, so center, institute. The idea is to have a focused how do I put it? A body of researchers drawing both from academic and externally. And I would want to say that's part of the reason why I'm here today. That's how I met Cameron here, because we were thinking, how do we come up with. Whether it's we have not settled whether it's an institute or a center, but whatever it is, that should be the focus. So it's something in the pipeline. The second question was, what are the best practices that have been put in place to ensure that indigenous students are well taken care of? Now, the university works within a particular framework, the law, and therefore we don't have anything specific for the indigenous, I'll be very honest. However, the government of Kenya, through the university funding 2023, the way that one replaced the differentiated unit cost system, and we have students getting between 30 to 70% of the tuition costs catered for by the government. The remainder, now that depends on where you are placed in the banding system, and that means that any student who is probably coming from a marginalized area, they should be able to benefit more, probably get up to 70%. That's from the university funding. The second thing is that the remainder is either covered under the household and loans contribute. Beyond that, in the university, we have had various financial institutions like the KCB Foundation, the Equity Foundation, also coming in to assist on financing some of the needy students. The university, even though this one is not directly under the the university funding, for example, this year we have had about 100 students from Narok County being funded to do a certificate in agribusiness, where they were funded by part by the senator of Narok and the KCB Foundation. So there are also initiatives to see how we can offset some of the costs by having partners and therefore still have an impact in the region. The last question was whether we have a dedicated office which writes grants. The way the university is structured is that every lecturer has 3 mandates: to teach, to do research, and carry out community outreach. And the way the university is realigning, I think research is coming out, research plus community outreach is coming out very strongly, such that we are even having a system whereby we'll be told you're supposed to spend 2 hours here, 2 hours on research, and so forth. So we are having an enhanced capacity building in terms of grant writing, research proposal writing. The Director of Research and Innovation through the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, they've had several trainings targeting researchers on grant writing. We also have what we call the institutional, or rather Masai Mara University Science and Ethics Committee. It's been established. We have had almost 60 to 100 people trained on the same. Basically, is to make sure that when we are writing these grants, at least we're able to meet the requirements as Dr. said there. And we're also having partnerships and mentors even for graduate assistants and the young PhD scholars who are coming in. And the whole objective is to make sure that the capacity in terms of grant writing is top-notch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To you, Mheshimiwa, go ahead.
Thank you very much. On the issues of land, land is something else, and land is a motive. Article the 63, the Constitution was operationalized by the Community Land Act of 2016 to some extent. That communities are now given a criterion on how to register their community land. The only thing the government is not doing is giving you the money to register that land as a community land. You have to initiate it by your own self because it's your land. But the fight we have with communities is that many people, us here, 90%, we want ownership of land. Then after we have the ownership of the land, we now start planning on how to sell the same land. So there is the request for ownership from the government, and I'm assuring you today, if the government allows everybody to own a private land in these indigenous areas, then we come to this conference in the next 10 years, everybody will be, 90% of us will be squatters. So it's on us. How do we need to protect our land? And how do we talk to ourselves? Because we have quite a lot of war. We have issues now with the Ogiek. They're coming to my office crisscrossing, overtaking themselves. Another group comes and says, we want community land. When they leave, another one comes and says, no, kila mtu na shamba yake. You know, it's funny. I have a very good example in Wasingishu. Some from Nandi, Ogiek were given land. But today, those who still live in that land are less than 2 out of like 50. All the others have sold. And they're again saying we don't have land. So land ownership, yes, you get it. But how do we protect it from, for you? When it is your private land, the government is out. It is you and your greed. I can say that because most sell 100 acres to school one kid who ends up leaving school at Form 2. And they say to lose a shamba, kusomesha mtoto. So, and the land issues, it is between us and you. And the government has also given the title deed on trust on the Power Forest recently to the governor. And now it is the governor and the people. On the issues of the discrepancy of the indigenous people, that is what we are intending to remove from the law and the policy that we are coming up with. We want to come up with a clear definition so that when you are making your point, when you are making your argument, at least you are basing it to something. For now, we don't have. And as I said, the indigenous community, the minority and marginalized, are still marginalized even by those in office. So it's still a struggle that we need to find our space. We are here. We are not. It is not that we are not feasible, but we will be the doors will be closed when you want to go and share the meal in the table. You will be told we don't know you. But during elections, we will come and call you the good names. You give us the votes again. We go around. So it is the same thing. Intentions to bring the minority commission, yes. In the law, we are even speaking of bigger things like a state department. We are proposing that, and it's already in advanced stages, that we need a standalone state department for the minority marginalized, where the indigenous people will be, so that even implementation of some activities can be done in that state department. And currently we have the National Gender and Equality Commission. We have a directorate specifically to deal with minority and marginalized issues led by Commissioner and has a lot of staff. So we are already there. We are already there, and we have a goodwill of the current government. Specific communities, for now, we are still loading. Yes, we know a few communities that we all know, but there are still other communities that are smaller. Even, this is just my question. Here in the Maa speakers, we can speak of the Samburu, the Maasai, the Ilchamus now. But we have others cropping out and trying to self-determine, like the Ngunonos. When you meet the Maasai, he'll tell you, no, we are all Maasai. But ukimwambia Ngunono wants to marry a Maasai girl, they say, no, we don't marry from that clan. They are, you know what you say. So how do we protect them and the others? I went to Laikipia, and in one corner they are Maasai, they call them the Robo, and they don't want even to interact with them. You speak the same, but ikifika mahali pengine, no, you're the Robos, don't bring us your curses. You know, It's a problem that we are trying to see. How do we bring this out? And, but finally, when we finalize with the policy, we are going to, the commission were given that job to gazette the communities that we currently have as we progress on others. So they'll be gazetted. And all of us will know that this policy is targeting who, because we cannot target everybody. On the issues of advocacy, yes, we are doing advocacy. I'm here today. For those who had not known the office, now you know the office, and we are going to continue doing that. I'll go myself, the commission will be there, everybody will speak about us, and even you, be our advocates wherever you are. Speak about our issues, speak about the office so that we can make everybody know that we exist and this is our space to take. Felix, on the issues of strategy beyond policy and law, yes. We are also engaging the county government, and the law, the County Government Act of 2012 speaks specifically to these communities. But some counties are indigenous habited, if I can say that. Here in Narok, the Ma live here, they are indigenous. Is that correct? Marginalization. I was worried that you are going to. So we are doing that, and at the same time, we are also finding gaps. We are finding gaps on other policies, the existing policy. Like the policy on education says, kids should not go beyond 800 meters or a kilometer to look for education for schools. But you go to these indigenous or marginalized areas, kids are going 20, 30 kilometers to look for schools. So we are also going and finding the gaps between the existing laws and now advising government, advising state departments to actually allocate money to reduce the suffering on education, health, water, and other basic amenities so that we can all be equal before the eyes of the law. Minute from the clan, you forget that you have the Ogiek who are minority within yourself. Asanteni sana.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Edna, any last comment? I know there may not have been a specific question, but...
No specific question to me, but nevertheless, I've learned a lot, and also from my fellow speakers and also from the audience. I think one thing we need to be clear about in terms of access to finance for indigenous people, let's acknowledge also the systemic barriers. There's money out there, but we have to acknowledge the systemic barriers in terms of access, whether through challenges also as well, intermediaries issue who swallow a big chunk of that money, but also bureaucracies within those access structure. And just to highlight, IFIP, International Funders for Indigenous People, which we are a member of, did a study and mapped out more than 20 grants from Candid, and they did it from they studied the analysis they did from 2011 to 2022, you know. And out of the funding, they mapped out the billions of dollars that was available. You know, the outcome was how many is reaching indigenous people, and especially even coming to just Africa, was 0.6%. To Asia, 2.7%. 88% still stayed in North America, you know, and how much also is going to communities. So we need to acknowledge such systemic barrier and still continue to advocate for that funding to come, because it's going to support a number of things. That and also they acknowledge also there's a lot of data gaps with the funders giving money. They don't disaggregate correctly for indigenous people, so you don't know how much really reached communities, what went to what, you know. So there's a lot of data gaps, and then when there's data gaps within philanthropy space, you don't know what is reaching communities, where is the needs, you know, and where has progress been made, because that's how you advance work and see areas to provide support. But also we have to acknowledge as well, there's emerging approaches and models of funding within philanthropy space slowly, and they are aware. Don't say they're not aware of indigenous people. There's awareness, it's just those barriers making you not access the funding. Globally, it's known, even within UN, within organizations, and also facilities, global organizations are now creating funds for indigenous people specific. So we're seeing those emerging approaches, but we need to see more of it, you know, and more funding really going directly to communities. And we also have to acknowledge there's power within the financing space, whether it's for research or anything. So how do we advocate for shifting of those finances and power relationship to move to the people itself, you know, shifting those from traditional philanthropy approach, but also allowing financing that's coming to people or targeted at people to be reimagined differently. And I think that's the space we are in, trying to say, don't give us pledges, but also remove those systemic barriers, because it's all about reciprocity as well. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Prof?
Yes, thank you very much. I think Edna has spoken my mind, but I wanted to reiterate the good news. As I said, that globally now there is overwhelming consensus that indigenous peoples deserve money because of their life ways that are very much compatible to the global goals of reducing emissions, but also because of the historical injustices that went into sidelining indigenous people. So take that as good news, because it makes you darling of donors if you can master the language that Professor Koisaba said to speak into what they want. But of course, as Edna said, that has largely remained a proviso, an empty rhetoric, because pledges outweigh the realities. What trickles down to indigenous peoples is really just breadcrumbs, and we need to trace where the bread goes, because otherwise we'll be doing. And I think it was very captivating to listen to the indigenous youth yesterday saying we give 100%, but we get 0 point something. So that dynamic. But I think key takeaway to researchers here, fellow academics and indigenous leaders, is also to proactively shape what is researched by also widening the scope. Look at climate action holistically in the entire value chain, all the way from the strategic minerals, from the transmissions up to the community rights who own the carbon and so on and so forth. But if we just look at it from the adaptation, then we are missing out a lot of opportunities. Asante sana.
Last word.
Last word. In the world where I come from, universities lead the way. Again, universities lead the way. What do I mean? We have Masai Mara University here. Ideally, no decision should be made in Narrow County without advice of research from the university. My takeaway, that's number one. Because policy is advised by research. Even though the Kenya government doesn't fund research, and I know that, I get frustrated when I get called for money, send it to my colleagues, and send it to people in government, and nobody wants to pick that because it's got to have a go-ahead from the government. It's very pathetic. The university is supposed to be the cradle of knowledge for all of us. Number two, civil society. Civil society cannot operate alone. They operate with the university and operate with other resources, human resources within that community, meaning traditional leaders, other intellectuals like all the professors we have, create an environment where we'll coordinate. Finally, a couple of weeks ago, I got several calls from young Maasai men wanting me to host a meeting with Madaktari. You remember, Prof, I called you about it, and I also called I called a couple of them. Do you know why? Our youth are hungry for advice. They are hungry for mentorship. I don't know why they chose me. They know better. But the thing is, our youth are ready to be mentored. The university, again, create an opportunity for us to mentor our children. Create an opportunity. Create that environment where the university is not closed. The university becomes a research, a center for us to communicate, to meet together, talk together, discuss together about that. And finally, yes, Thank you so much, my brother, for this. And I wish this was going for 5 days. Amu anara labate kwa Kimasai da amu hegi moidoi haha. We are sick, seriously. Ikiado ligane gini agal laba. Hana. Kita naba ko land forever.
Egesho yo kangai enega bakiate.
Alenya ngoro lega shani.
Ashe. Yake ngoro.
Na deba.
Ashe. Wow, very, very powerful. I promised 3 people, I'll let them ask. We may not answer them. But I want the panel the plenary to hear their questions in the interest of justice and fairness. Let's go with the lady first. If the mic is close, there are 2 mics here actually.
Oh yeah, the mic.
Can you give it to Anne or Samuel, whoever is closest? Okay. Go ahead, Yeyo.
Go ahead. I have 2 questions. With all due respect to everybody who is going to be the answerer, I need to start with the university. Daktari, I've heard you talk about you want partnership. Yesterday I said I come from the village. And I came from the village that have seen the other side of the world. In 2009, or can I even say, I gave you the university. So I can still take it if I'm not happy. I think Lange with somebody. He was there when I was signing off the title deed from Narok Teachers College to the university. So I could be a custodian, and a good one, or sometimes a rough one. So the year 2009, I was at the University of Georgia with 14 Maasai women for 3 weeks. And while we are coming back home, we came with some lecturers, and I took them to the Masai Mara University, a department that was going to help us with the library, a department that was going to help us to start the law school. But when we brought it, and it's brought by women, and I could be a trailblazer from Masai land, just it's enough they don't know what our trailblazers are. The political people refuse to partner with the University of Georgia from Atlanta. So I don't know whether you are now safe to work with the others or not. But we got so annoyed. First of all, the Senate, the representation of the Maasai people, the Purko people who are the owners of the land. It's not, they don't see, we don't see them anywhere. So if time comes, we'll begin to say the land is ours, so can we run a private university if we are not getting what we need? We had expectation. You don't even know how we got it. So if I can say, with all due respect, we need to partner as much as possible with the Maa community themselves, with the people, our friends, because everybody has a friend, and you cannot do everything. Resources are few. So I need to make sure that we are there, our voices are there. Hiyo nitakuachia, tutazungumza ingine. To the Honorable Office of the President, I have 2 questions. Still about land. I decided to make it the last because you said the last. The intellectual property rights in the Constitution. I was part of those people who are writing the constitution for 5 years. So I have everything in my head. The intellectual property right is alive in today's question. The constitution was promulgated in 2010. We had a window to accomplish everything, which was ending, and it is still hanging, together with Article 27 of those human rights, 1/3, vis-a-vis 2/3. Those are things the government is already oppressing the voices of the women, where those women are looking for. But the last one, when you talk about Mau Forest, and you talk of issuing a title deed to an individual, when we are aware that the Mau Forest belongs to the entire Purko community, there is no right for one person to be given by the president a title deed which is not his. And one thing we want you, with all due respect, to go and ask him to answer us is that title deed that has been given into the county government is it's wrong, because Narok now is cosmopolitan. We have about all the 47, but the owner of the land will become one shareholder. So by the time you talk about all those nominations, you have the Xizin and everybody, and the Kalenjin and the Okiek. Where does the Purko come? It's become an owner of one shareholder. So I'm saying...
Yes, as you wrap up here,
I will wrap.
Yes.
We know the acres of that land. My husband was the second member of parliament for this Narok North. And we had 46,778 acres. We don't know what portion you have given the county government. And also it means it is irrelevant. You need to tell the president as it kuje kutuangusha. Don't musitu kuja kufuruga. We know how to sit and sort out ourselves. And the constitution, we are still within the parameters of that constitution. And Mao remains to the Purko. They have nobody has a capacity. I end our way. So with all due respect, if you want us to walk the journey, we must be sincere enough without having to cover things. Then you end, we have bloodshed after that. That's all I want to end it.
Yeah, so you heard it. Is a university open to partnership? What is the effective space of Maasai in the university system? And was Mao title transmitted according to the law from trust land to community? And how did the county come to be the holder of the title is a question from Yeyo. Anne, please, specific to the point. Can somebody give Anne some sound? Try this one.
It's what? Okay, thank you, Kim. And yes, I'll go straight to the point. Now that we may not get the responses now, but it's good for all of us to reflect. So on the professor from the university, my question would be, I know you talked about the reservation of the medicinal plants, and yes, my question would be, how do we ensure that communities are protected, that we don't open up space for these communities to be exploited, especially with the experiences we've had, like the sandalwood in the north that is used for perfumes, and the community is not benefiting. The other question is building on the momentum in the room on indigenous-led research. I'm just starting to think, and especially considering the role of women in knowledge as knowledge holders and the contribution they make, how do we, again, don't end up making them subject or tools of research, but try also to drive indigenous women-led research. The third one is on the representative of Pawanka, Madam Edna. Have you been able to document some of the lessons learned to counter the narrative of indigenous peoples for example, not having the capacity to manage funds and all that. Have you been able to document that to show or to let the world know that indeed we are able to do that? And from the mushrooming IP-led funds, I know it's quite, they are coming up every other day. Is that posing again another challenge to us? Is it becoming again competitive? Are we creating a necessary competition? Do we risk retrogressing back to the traditional donor?
All right, thank you very much. Yes, the collective intellectual property of ethnomedicine, Mrs. Marima also touched on that. Now that the university has an ethnomedicine place, and as we think about concrete action, remember the place of women. And as we promote indigenous-led funds, let's not create a problem, another problem in the name of a solution by fragmenting it to the extent that, again, it's an issue. Samuel, please pass the mic. Anyway, we are told the lunch will be ready in 15 minutes, so bear with us.
Thank you. So it means I have 15 minutes for my question?
Not for you.
Oh, okay.
This is for the moderator.
Okay. I just wanted clarification.
We're clever, you.
No, I was very much impressed by the presenters, and I have a very quick and short question. I know the Masai Mara tourism generates a lot of money in this area. And my question was, since we are talking about financing for the university, for the communities here, is there a funding mechanism through all what the state is getting from tourism to have part of the money trickling down to the institutions and the communities here? If not, is it possible to think about something like that?
It flows is the issue, but we can discuss. I had Gabriel there. Milka here is the other funder in the room, now that she wasn't in the panel. 1 minute there, and this one young man, and we close. I'll give Asia, of course. Asia, I know, we are supposed to have had a rejoinder, actually, in the earlier session. I'll give each of you 3 minutes to speak to the earlier in this session, okay? Yeah.
Pretty quickly to Honorable Lowoi, and maybe just food for thought for all of us. He's facing challenges getting funding from the government to make this policy and possibly having a bill. If we as civil society gang up to, do the resource mobilization for the policy to pass and for the bill to be drafted, are we seeing a risk of it being facing challenges of being passed through the House, because now it has been funded by Umesanya activists wakakuwa indigenous? Then is it going to be a difficulty passing it in the House, and how would it be in terms of implementation?
Okay.
Just looking forward.
Is the policy safe with us contributing money, or it will be thrown out as ours and not the state? All right? Yeah, Musuni, thank you.
So my question goes to Professor Koisaba, and I have a concern. It looks controversial, but actually it is maybe is a thought or a reality from what I've seen. I had a privilege to attend the concluded Global Youth Forum, and among the experiences I've seen is the vibrancy and the resilience of the organizations in the global north. And my concern is their ability to manage to get grants is quite tremendous compared to the ability of the youth-led organizations in the global south. Does it justify the fact that the youth from the global north or the global south doesn't have enough capacity to mobilize funds that the youth from the global north are applying? My last question goes to the university. And actually, I want to ask the professor, how are you in a position to tap this expertise or this knowledge that is being carelessly discharged here, to build a knowledge, a research and indigenous unit within the university, because we might be gathering here, and this is an institution that is close to us. How are you be able to leverage on this knowledge and expertise that is from here to build a unit, an established unit, to foster indigenous resiliency and self-determination within the indigenous communities of the southern Kenya? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Capacity between the youth in the north and the south, of course, is a big issue. And how do you tap this carelessly dispensed knowledge? He says. Do you let it go like that, or you have a plan?
My name is Martin Sokoine. My question goes to Professor Loltaiga. It's both a question and concern. I'd want you to shed some light or maybe enlighten us on what's happening to our indigenous brothers in the Ngorongoro concerning the evictions by the Tanzanian government. Now that you come from that country, can you shed some light on what is the motive of the government, wanting to actually evicting those people? Then again, what can be done, because you are a lawyer and an advocate for indigenous people, what's being done in Tanzania to see that we hold the government to account, and what's the future of those people who are being evicted from their land?
What is the state of our brothers and sisters in the Ngorongoro? All right. Asia will give Beth. The Philippines have not spoken since they came.
So good afternoon. I am Maribeth from the Philippines, and I work with the Teba Foundation, and I'm glad to be here, deeply honored to be with you. And we are just having a caucus because I don't think I'm going to speak for Asia. We have a very good experience from Indonesia about initiatives from the community that supported the development of their own cooperatives. And just an introduction, it will be Mr. Stefanos Macion who will be speaking about their experience in West Kalimantan. Because from our discussion right now, it's all about financing from outside. So she will be sharing their experience of financing from their own economic initiatives. Okay, but
yeah.
that okay?
Could you pass the mic to him?
Okay. But before that, I would also like to.
And I should be told when the lunch is ready.
Okay. But before we proceed to Mr. Macion, I would also like to emphasize that right now in the trends of financing, the pipeline is closing. There are pipelines which are closing for indigenous peoples, just as we are experiencing right now in our institution. Yes, the money is there, but because of the different trajectories of the government or the change in the priorities of the government, they are decreasing the amount committed for indigenous people. And one of our funders actually said that we are not going to fund you anymore for the next year because of the different priorities. So may I give the mic to Mr. Macion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
If you can do it in 3 minutes, it'll be great. Okay. And please let me know when the lunch is ready. We need to set people out. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I would like to share my experience in West Kalimantan. We have a cooperative movement since 1993 that we started. And now we have 233,000 members, with the asset is 40 million US dollars.
Wow.
And we created a university. We claim that we declare that our university is indigenous people's university. And why we do that? Because our members told us that we should not focus only on saving and credits, but we have to make sure that the education of our children, the rights of indigenous peoples, because we claim that our cooperative movement is indigenous people movement, human rights movement, so that we try to generate efforts to empower ourselves from inside. And I think that's why Aman chooses my university, Kalingkumang Institute of Kalingkumang Institute Technology, to cooperate in the research of indigenous-led research about loss and damage caused by climate change in Indonesia. We conduct 6 sites research talking about loss and damage caused by climate change in Indonesia, involving another 5 universities in Indonesia, which are within the territory of indigenous peoples or near the indigenous people territory. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Please appreciate them. A cooperative that grew up to establish its own university on indigenous issues. Amazing, right? Yeah. And we had a privilege to visit Nepal. And the University of Kathmandu, is it? They have a program to the master's level on indigenous issues. So I would encourage the Masai Mara University to grab these Asian brothers and sisters and basically exchange notes and see how the initial thoughts we have begun around partnership with Masai Mara to actually that institute that somebody, I think my son was talking about, and you are also talking about. How about if we just give Looi, you can choose what to answer in a minute, and then we give Professor Laltaika. Here we call Loltaika, in Tanzania they call Laltaika. It's okay, still one. O and an A, sounds the same. And then I think we end with Waweru here. There was very little. Okay, Edna, there were those issues of funding, but I encourage us to reach out bilaterally. Unfortunately, we can't respond to every question or give every hand a chance. So allow me to go those 3, a minute each, and then we wrap up this session. Let's begin with Elifraha.
Thank you very much, Kimaren. And it's true, I'm referred to here in Kenya as Lorega, and next question is, where is Olrega? And I show them because it is really prominently here. But back to the question, really good. And I must make a disclaimer that not only that I am an advocate for indigenous people's rights, but I come from that community and in the same place. So I was born and raised in Ngorongoro Conservation Area. And really to just very briefly respond is that the President of the United Republic of Tanzania has formed 2 commissions to investigate. So we are awaiting reports of 2 presidential commissions that have been formed to look at what transpired. Probably that is to investigate the obvious, but we are very keen to see what recommendations will be there. So I'm really delighted to say that after the President formed the commissions, indigenous communities, the Maasai, the resident of Ngorongoro, very robustly engaged, responding to questions and making speeches, spiritual prayers, opening, and therefore there's in public domain a lot of information on what has happened. So we want to see what would be the recommendations, for the President to act upon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe we go to Waweru first and we conclude with Lowe.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'll start with the question from our trailblazer, and thank you for being there when we were not even there. The question you asked in terms of partnership, I'm sorry that happened, politics, we know where we are. However, we are running on a new slogan, Masai Mara of New Beginnings. So you're welcome. I'm not so sure whether you'll get the University of Georgia back, but if you can, hallelujah. If you can't, you're still welcome to visit. In terms of the ethnic representation, I want to put a rider here. From this side, the 37% looks very beautiful. The ladies were 37% yesterday. In Masai Mara, as we speak, 37% of the staff represent the local community. So I would say proudly that we meet the threshold that is spelled out by the Commission on University Education and the National Cohesion of Integration Commission. So I believe you should say we are doing well. The other question was in regards to how are we safeguarding the materials, whether it's ethnomedicine or any other, from being exploited. And for this one, I would want to put across that for us, actually, we're just enforcing. There's a law, one that says any researcher, external or internal, they have to get a license from the NACOSTI. And before that, their proposal is subjected to what we call Science and Research Ethics Committee. And in these committees, we have one we established in Masai Mara. We ensure that those rights are protected in these. Therefore, there are protocols that enhance the respecting of indigenous culture and intellectual property. And this means knowledge, stories, whatever, cannot be extracted, misrepresented, modified without free, prior, and informed consent, and, or a shared a benefit sharing mechanism. So that one is already embedded in law. We just need to be implemented. And anybody coming to probably do research, and also those people who are interested in indigenous research, it's good to be aware that they search, so that if you're partnering with anybody, you need to understand the law so that they don't expropriate our knowledge. Because somebody will come, you do research with them, and they go away with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeyo, the door is open. Reach out and bring Georgia if you can, and others from your networks. Mheshimiwa?
Thank you very much. On the issue of the intellectual property rights, I think this is the area that has been over-legislated. We have all the legislation to protect the intellectual property rights. We have the Industrial Property Act, we have the Copyright Act, we have the Trademarks Act, and we have the Seed and Plant Variety Act, and all the other common laws. So the government, the law that you gave to yourselves, because you're part of the constitutional making, is the law that is serving this country. Maybe some mishaps here and there, but that law is working to our good. On the issue of Mau Forest, because you've given me a responsibility to go and talk to the president, that I'll not answer. I'll go talk to him maybe and get you the answer. But what I know, the county were not given the title deed of the land to be theirs. They are just holding that title deed on trust or in trust, whichever comes first. And I'm very sure the negotiations of that title deed coming to the county was done by the Purko elders and the Purko leaders in that regard. It was not just done. The only thing that I want us to differentiate here is there's a difference between being a minority, marginalized, and cohesion. If you're from Nandi and you've come and bought land here in Narok, you cannot claim minority status. You are a migratory minority. But there are those indigenous minority who have lived, like the Ogiek of Mau and the Maasai, have been here for years. Those are the people that we consider first. If you just came for your business and your land, stay away on your lands. because this law is for those indigenous and national minorities. So let us not confuse that because sijui nani has come, sijui but so we are going to be diluted just because we've come. No, we want to recognize the indigeneity of the land and property. The civil society contributing to the policy, I think that's the best idea if it is going to be born, and nobody is going to. I think the fight is for a few of our leaders or others that have not been. They don't understand this concept. They are still in denial. But let me tell you, the goodwill is 98%. If today we come together, get funds to approve this, to finalize this policy and the law, I guarantee you that it will be approved because the president is on the lead and he wants to see this come to fruition. Asanteni sana.
Oh, thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Milka. If there is money, let's bring the money. Let's deliver the policy, and any other actor here who can access resources, let it not be because political goodwill was there and resources weren't found. Let's make it happen. It's a window of opportunity. We have had here, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude, that data is on our side. We are not receiving any money. We are vulnerable, but we are not just victims. We are part of the solution. We have heard that the possibility for resources is there, but that mobilization needs expertise to be built, awareness and capacity. That part of this is building deliberate strategic networks and collaboration to access the information and these resources. That we need to move beyond traditional sources. We have focused so much on the environment and natural resource, mostly trees, and very little on those sectors that Professor Laltaika was mentioning, renewables, green economy, transitional minerals, and they're exploiting these things in our landscape. If we can embed our share of our resources towards research and other livelihood in this, we'll be better off. That indigenous people-led funds is a place to learn from. We have had those principles and the best practices highlighted here, that the university here is deliberate and has elaborate plans to center indigenous knowledge systems at Masai Mara University, and that it is open for partnership for us to explore. That inclusivity and respect for human rights should be across the board. We cannot seek inclusion as we exercise exclusion for others within us who have rights. That we must map in order to disrupt the existing systems that have excluded and marginalized us. That we need to practice tracking financial flows to question the flows, FLAY, to question the FLOY, how money flows, where they come from, where they are going, to whom they are going. And that there are new positive models of financing arrangement that we should tap into, at the risk of oversimplifying the very, very insightful and rich exchanges from this awesome panel. Can we appreciate this panel, ladies and gentlemen, for an excellent. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much. We are better off than before you joined this podium here. And now I hope lunch is ready. Yes, somebody, the logistics team. They are running after lunch themselves.